By the late 19th century, the cocktail wasn't just a drink, it was a statement. And if anyone knew how to make a statement, it was Oscar Wilde. The Irish playwright, poet, and all-around agent of chaos lived a life of wit, excess, and of course, absinthe. So welcome back to History in a Glass. I'm Josh, your guide on this tipsy time machine through history. Today, we're drinking like the artists and intellectuals of the Belle Époque, the golden age of salons, absinthe bars, and luxury cocktails. Oscar Wilde was a literary superstar at this time. He gave us plays like The Importance of Being Earnest, the dark novel The Picture of Dorian Gray, and more one-liners than a cocktail bar bathroom wall. You may have heard this one. I can resist everything except temptation. Today, we're channeling that creative, chaotic spirit with two drinks Wilde would have loved. The Absinthe Cocktail, the unofficial drink of artists, dreamers, and beautiful disasters, and the Bijou, the dazzling cocktail of gin, vermouth, and chartreuse. It's gonna be a green episode, and for me, almost all this is new. So grab your ingredients and let's raise a glass to the art of living well, and maybe just a little too much. So we know Oscar Wilde was a writer, but he also made headlines, and he made damn sure well that you never forgot his name. I mean, here we are over 130 years later, and we're still quoting him over cocktails. He championed aestheticism, the idea that art should be beautiful, not moral. And he turned decadence into a lifestyle. So what would Wilde actually be drinking? Well, at this point, you probably guessed it, absinthe. It's not just strong, but it's symbolic. It was nicknamed the Green Fairy and became the Bohemian's favorite vice. Artists like Toulouse-Lautrec, Van Gogh, and Baudelaire drank it for inspiration, or maybe madness. Wilde, he definitely drank it for both. And part of the draw was the ritual. The absinthe drip, a slow pour of ice-cold water over a sugar cube, turning the emerald liquor into a milky swirl called the louche. People claimed it caused hallucinations, but in reality, it's just very strong booze. But the mystique, that part was real. And Wilde leaned into all of it, holding court in smoky cafés, quoting poetry between sips, making absinthe part of the legend. It was poetry in a glass and danger in a bottle. By the late 1800s, absinthe wasn't just getting sipped, it was getting mixed. Bartenders were turning it into full-blown cocktails, and that's where we're headed. One of the most famous printed recipes for the absinthe cocktail appears in Harry Johnson's Bartender's Manual in 1900, right at the tail end of Wilde's lifetime. It's basically the Bohemian's answer to an old-fashioned. Absinthe, sugar, bitters, no nonsense. So, let's take a look at what goes into the absinthe cocktail. So for the important stuff, the absinthe, I'm using Vieux Pontarlier. It's a modern absinthe made in the historic French town where the original Green Fairy was bottled. Not from Wilde's time, but close in style. We'll need a teaspoon of gum syrup. We need 2 or 3 dashes of bitters. Now Johnson's 1900 recipe just calls for bitters, so I'm gonna use Bokers. It's a lighter, herbal style that was popular in the 1800s, and likely what bartenders were reaching for when this cocktail first appeared. It also adds depth without muddying the color, which is key when you're working with something as striking as absinthe. You can use Angostura, but just expect it to be kind of a light pink color. We'll need a lemon peel for garnish and some ice for mixing. So let's go ahead and build the absinthe cocktail. So let's start off with the mixing glass. In here, we'll combine our absinthe, our gum syrup, and our bitters. I'm sure you've heard the expression, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Well, the Parisians beat us to it by about 140 years. They called it l'heure verte, or the green hour. Around 5 p.m., cafes across Paris would fill with writers, painters, and day drinkers, chasing the Green Fairy. Absinthe wasn't just a drink, it was a daily ritual. Next, we'll fill the mixing glass up with some ice. We'll stir this until it's nicely chilled. And here's a quick note. Johnson's recipe says to shake, but almost all recipes back then did. I'm stirring it to keep it elegant, and also to give me some time to tell another story. When I was in my 20s, in the early 2000s, absinthe was this whispered about forbidden drink. People swore it made you trip. You couldn't legally buy the real stuff in the US, but there was always somebody who would bring it up, like it was some kind of psychedelic holy grail. The hype was half hallucination, half internet legend. The real stuff was still banned. It wasn't until 2007 that absinthe was legally finalized again in the US. Turns out, the hallucinations were mostly marketing. Wormwood does have a hallucinogenic compound, but not enough to make you see anything other than your bar tab. So next we'll strain this into our coupe glass. And the last step is to express a lemon peel over the top and then drop it in. Okay, so I'm ready for my first experience with absinthe. So let's taste the absinthe cocktail. Cheers. Wow, I'm actually surprised at this. It's herbal, but then you get this black licorice taste, which I was not expecting at all, but I am surprised, pleasantly surprised. I'm one of those weird people who like black licorice. Floral at first, black licorice comes in, then you get the heat from the alcohol itself. A little bit of sweet, but very interesting. I can definitely see if you have 2 of these, suddenly you're ready to write your own picture of Dorian Gray. So absinthe was for the artists, but for the glittering upper crust of the Belle Époque, you needed something a little shinier. Enter the Bijou, French for jewel. It said that each ingredient represents a gemstone. Gin is the diamond, green chartreuse is the emerald, and the sweet vermouth is ruby. Let's make this jewel-inspired cocktail the way it first appeared in Harry Johnson's 1900 Bartender's Manual. Equal parts elegance, power, and herbal complexity. So for this, we have 3 different types of booze. We're gonna use 1 ounce of Plymouth gin. Now, Plymouth gin's got its roots back in the 1700s, and it's softer and more earthy than your typical London dry. It plays nice with bold flavors like chartreuse. We also need 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. I'm using Carpano Antica, which is the same as we used in episode 7 of this series. If you haven't already, check out the story of the Manhattan cocktail. This is a modern version of one of the oldest vermouth recipes based on 18th century Italian formulas. It's rich, a little bitter, and a little chocolatey. And then we also need 1 ounce of green chartreuse, made by Chartreusian monks in France with a secret blend of 130 herbs and botanicals. Now there's only 1 green chartreuse, so it's not that hard to spot if you can find it. This recipe also calls for a dash of orange bitters. I'm using Angostura orange bitters. It's not historical to the original recipe, but they're bright, reliable, and do the job without throwing the drink off. This recipe calls for a garnish of either a cherry or an olive. So I'm going with the cherries here. I'm just using the typical maraschino cherries by Luxardo. And then we also need a lemon peel and then some ice. Once again, we'll start with the mixing glass. And in this, we're gonna combine the gin, the vermouth, the chartreuse, and the bitters into this glass. Green chartreuse is one of the few liquors still made by monks. It's another one that I've never had before, so this one will also be pretty interesting to me. Now that those are combined, we just need to add some ice and we're gonna stir this until chilled. Despite the French name, this drink didn't start in Paris. It's actually American. But by the early 1900s, it made its way into hotel bars like the Savoy in London and the Maxim in Paris, right in Wilde's orbit. Now we're ready to strain this into our glass. Next, we'll garnish with a cherry. And then lastly, express the lemon peel over the top. And once again, the green chartreuse is a brand new experience for me, so I'm excited to try it. So here we go, our Bijou. Cheers. Okay, so this is a little strong, herbal right out of the gate. Kind of get those spicy green herbs. And then you get a wash of black licorice, which again, I'm a fan of, so this is pretty cool. Kind of numbs my mouth a little bit. It's got a lot going on. It's not the easiest to drink, but it's actually not that bad. And with all these flavors, it's kind of captivating. It reminds me of some of the original drinks that we tried so far in this series, where if you have too many of these, you could be arguing with somebody, and after a couple, you have no idea what you're even arguing about. So what do we learn here today? Oscar Wilde didn't just write about decadence, he lived it drink in hand. Absinthe was the fuel of the artistic underworld, a green fairy muse for poets, painters, and beautiful disasters chasing inspiration. The Bijou, a jewel-toned finishing touch for anyone living a life of belt-draped excess. So if you want to drink like a 19th century artist, or at least feel like one, give these a try and let me know how it goes. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below, especially if you end up writing questionable poetry after your second absinthe cocktail. Next up, we're trading our velvet jackets for pinstripes. We're heading into the shadows of Prohibition with Al Capone. So until next time, drink responsibly, or at least drink historically.